Hi everyone, this is back in the where we created our enemy where he'll follow us. I figured you might also want to be able to shoot your enemy, right? And we could create a projectile that we're going to shoot at the enemy and be able to interact with the enemy in that way. So what we're going to do is first we need to create a projectile that we're going to send to it. So just like we've done before, right? This is a blueprint class with actor. I'm going to call it blueprint and we're going to just call it a projectile. And we're going to edit it, and I'm just going to make it a sphere and call it projectile, and I'm just going to make it smaller just because the scale here is over here. I'm gonna do 0.25, 0.25, 0.25. That just makes it a little bit more reasonable for the player thing. And I want to give it a color just to make it a little more fun. It's always good to add dimension to our system. Let's see what would be good. That looks interesting. It's desert, but it looks shiny. I like shiny. Compile. And then what we also need to add here is a projectile movement. And what this is, right, we add projectile movement and we'll leave it be as projectile movement. And this is going to tell our system that we're actually going to throw this ball, right? So it's actually going to move. We want to give it some speed, so we could do 3,000 and 5,000 as an upper speed. And so this will be our little sphere that we're going to throw around. And compile. And I'm also going to add the collision, because we've done this before, right? So I'm just going to add collision. I'm going to shrink it down again to be roughly the same size as the spell, and I'm going to rename this just so I can have it be the collision projectile, just so I have it there. And what we want to do now is compile and save. Right? I always like to save. But now we need to add where this ball or this sphere projectile is going to show up as. And so what we want to do is go back to our content drawer, and we're going to open up our third person blueprint. And we could go over to viewport, and we basically want to modify this so that the sphere is coming out of them. And what we would need to do is add to our third person here, add to them an arrow. And so you can see it's coming out of the person. We want it to be outside of the collision, right? Because the third person has a collision thing. And we're just going to make it be more chest height. And we're going to rename this projectile direction, just so we know where it's coming from right? And so this is where the projectile should be coming out of our guy's chest and go out into the system. So we're going to compile, ensure that it compiled, and we're also going to hit save just to make sure we saved everything. So now we have our arrow that'll tell us which way the projectile is going to go. As you can see, the player is facing that way and the projectile is going to go that way. So now what we need to do is have some mechanics of how we get this projectile to show up. And so we're going to go into event, and we just want to go down to an empty place So you can see this is blueprints that are automatically generated for the third person. So we're just going to create our new blueprint down here. And what we want to do is we want to have some kind of action that we're going to do, and it's going to shoot our projectile. So what we're going to use is the left mouse button. So when we click the left mouse button, you can see here when we get pressed and released, we could also add a key. So what we're going to do is when we have it pressed, we're going to create that projectile. So we're going to want to spawn actor from class. And so what this is going to let us do is go and find our BP projectile, right, the one we made, and it's going to spawn that. Now we need to know the location of where to spawn it, and so we're going to need to get the position of the third person guy. So right, we created that projectile direction, so we can just pull that out, and so now we have this value, and what we need is the world. We need to get the world transform, and what that is, right, is just you can see it's the current component to world transform. Basically, it's getting the location of this projectile in the world level. And we're going to take that return value and put it in the spawn transform. So basically when we hit the left button, we're going to create the projectile that we have here, and we're going to have it be at the location of where that arrow is that we made, right? That's the arrow we made connected to the guy. So we're going to hit compile, be happy that it did that. So, and then we're going to hit save. And then we're going to go to third person map, and we're going to test out what we did. So we have this, and now you can see I have the ball that is just getting shot into the thing. So our projectile is successfully getting sent across the room. Now we might want to actually interact with it. There's a couple things you could do if you want to, depending upon what you want and what you're trying to come across. So if we come back in here into our projectile, and we go and we select the projectile movement, you can look for bounce, and you could click on should bounce and compile and save. And now when we go and play, if I click left to get a ball to come out, you'll see, or the projectile, you'll see that the projectiles bounce around the room and stay in the room. So that's one option that you can do, and just get a ton of projectiles all around the room. Another option you can do is, right, we have our enemy here. If we want to actually take out our enemy, we want to be able to hit him and have it affect him, right? So one of the things we can do is, if we go back to projectile and we have that the collision now, right, we could go to the event, and we could have it be with the overlap. And if it overlaps, and we can say we have our BP enemy. So we're going to cast it to BP enemy. So if it hits our BP enemy and we want it to, right, come over here and we want to destroy the ball, or the projectile that we've made. And but you could do other things, right, if you wanted to. So we can test this, right? Oops. I think I need that. Nope. There. Get there eventually. So had to get the actor into here, and then the actor, like, that's what we're doing. So now we'll hit try playing, and we'll come over here, and oh, we actually were able to destroy with one shot the player, right? And if you wanted to, like, we just did it with one shot, you might want to right, might have a thing where you get an actual health for the value, so you would just create a variable for health, and then you can start decrementing the health with every projectile that you hit the enemy with, and then he gets disappeared. But so that's a couple ways that you could play around with adding projectiles to your player.